In many social debates, one phrase appears again and again: protect the children. At first glance, that seems like an obviously good goal. But when that phrase is used in arguments, it's worth asking how the reasoning actually works. Appeals to protecting children are one of the most powerful persuasive tools in public debate. When people believe children might be harmed, the urgency of the issue increases immediately. And that emotional response can sometimes make arguments feel stronger than the reasoning behind them actually is. So the important question becomes, what exactly is the argument claiming? You sometimes hear arguments about transgender issues framed this way. For example, someone might say that certain policies, like how gender identity is recognized in schools or public spaces, could harm children. From that concern, they conclude those policies should be restricted or prevented entirely. At first glance, that argument sounds reasonable. But to understand it properly, we need to examine the reasoning behind it. The argument usually follows a structure like this. A policy or social change might create a risk to children. Because children must be protected, that policy should not be allowed. The key word here is might. The argument often moves quickly from a possible concern to a firm conclusion. And that jump is where the reasoning needs closer examination. To evaluate this kind of argument, we need to ask a few questions. What evidence shows that the predicted harm is likely? How often does the situation actually occur? And how do existing rules or safeguards address the concern? In many cases, debates focus heavily on the possibility of harm without examining how probable that harm actually is. This type of reasoning can sometimes rely on what's called an appeal to fear. Instead of demonstrating that harm is likely, the argument focuses on how serious the harm could be if it happened. But good reasoning requires considering both severity and likelihood. A severe outcome that is extremely unlikely requires a different response than one that happens frequently. Without examining that balance, the argument may rely on fear more than evidence. Protecting children is obviously important, but when that goal is used in an argument, the reasoning still needs to be examined carefully, because emotional urgency can sometimes make conclusions feel justified before the evidence is fully evaluated. And asking how an argument works, not just how it feels, is often the first step towards understanding whether it actually holds up.